Happy Josh Jung Day to all who celebrate. On today's show, we're talking about the one remaining position in question for the Rangers, and the shift is officially banned. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan since 2010, founder and host for all 4 seasons of this Locked On Rangers podcast. Today is Friday, September 9th, officially Josh Jung Day, and your Rangers are 59 and 77. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. The best way you can help grow the show is to subscribe on YouTube and comment any single thing below. Before we get into today's action, this episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Now, let's start off with some news. We got a lot of things to get into today. Major League Baseball implemented some new rules changes for 2023. I'm going to get onto that later on in the show, but basically the shift is banned. There are larger bases, and there is a pitch clock. Thank the good Lord for the pitch clock. I have been to many a minor league game. I have almost never noticed the pitch clock. And, some of these pitchers who have been growing up in this minor league system or coming up in this minor league system have been, trained on this. They have, it just makes them subconsciously work harder when there's not a pitch clock at the highest level. They still have it ingrained into their subconscious to work quickly, and it has made games a lot faster. They've also talked about removing God Bless America during the 7th inning, which, again, thank goodness. They were talking about, we want to make our game faster. How do we make our game faster? I don't know, maybe remove the freaking 2-minute long song that everyone sings in the middle of the 7th inning sometimes, or no times, or just randomly decides when they're going to do it. And that also would, leave more time for commercials for these TV networks. I don't know why it took them so long to decide this. I don't know why they had to sing 2 America songs at every game, much less 1. But, good for them. But also, the Rangers have made some roster moves. Ezequiel Duran has been sent down to AAA. Josh Smith has been called up, did that on the off day, and the official roster move to bring up Josh Jung will be to put Brad Miller on the IL with that hip injury. I don't know if that's happening as I am recording this at 1:10 Central Standard Time, but it'll happen before the day's game, and that will be what will allow Josh Jung to finally be promoted to the freaking big leagues. Now, I don't know that I thought that Ezequiel Duran was going to go down to make room for Josh Jung, but I guess I was kind of naive to think that he was going to be able to play every single day with Bubba Thompson doing what he's doing in left field. They were going to just waste him at DH. Not that, it's necessarily a waste, but he wouldn't be providing his full value. He wouldn't be getting better defensively at some of the positions he hasn't played a whole lot. He's played mostly second and shortstop. He could still use a few more reps at third base. He still has some really good tools there, but not a whole lot of experience, and he could use some more time in the outfield. He worked on that a little bit in AAA, and I don't know that he did at all in AA, but I know that he has worked in center field in AAA. He could be seeing a lot more time there in the future, but with what Bubba Thompson is doing so far with his ridiculous speed, his fantastic defense, and his ability to get on base at a higher clip, much higher clip than I thought he would, he's kind of locked down that left field spot for now. But I still do think long term, as in for the next 3 to 4-ish years, I'm not entirely sure Bubba can lock that role down. Maybe he might end up moving over to center field and taking over for Leote if Leote cannot produce more offensively, because both of them are just absolutely elite defensive players. I think Bubba's a little bit faster. I think Leote's reads are a little bit better, and Leote's arm is a little bit better. So overall, defensively, I think that makes Leote just a bit above Bubba Thompson defensively. But in the long term in left field, I think we need to look at who the options are going to be. Next year, it is kind of up in the air. At this point, I would say it's Bubba Thompson if there are no outside additions made. But let's look at who our immediate options could be. Right now, we've got Bubba Thompson, Ezequiel Duran, Josh Smith, Cole Calhoun, and Brad Miller. Now, I went from at this point, best to worst options, in my opinion. Brad Miller does have a guaranteed contract for next year. I think they'd have to spend $4 million to buy him out of it and make him a free agent, but he has been, frankly, pretty terrible this year. I was very excited about the, low budget signing. Oh, well, they got this guy who, seems to have a whole lot of value, seems to absolutely mash against righties. So you put him in left field and you have him mash against the righties, get on base a decent clip, hit some home runs. And that really just hasn't been the case. His last home run that he hit was back in May, and he hasn't done much of anything since then. He's had some hip injuries, but overall, he's just been fairly bad. Cole Calhoun has been serviceable, not exciting, nothing too crazy. He's been a good guy in the clubhouse, whatever, for whatever that's worth. That's fine, but on the field, he has not performed like the Rangers expected him to. He's got a 616 OPS this year, on base of 264, slugging 352. He had that one incredible month of May. Yeah, I believe it was May, that he was absolutely lighting the entire world on fire when the Rangers were doing really, really well. That was nice to have for a little bit, but overall on the season, he just has not been able to really cut it. I've loved what I've seen from Bubba Thompson. If he can sustain his on base being in like the 330s, maybe even get it up there just a little bit more. I think, by the way, I think some of these shift bands might actually help him quite a bit. We're going to get onto that later in the show, but I do think that the Rangers really, really value his defense and his elite base running. He's stolen 10 bases, only been caught once in his major league career. That's just 30 games. He's averaging a steal every third game, and I think he could get it even a little bit higher. The guy is just absolutely electric. Josh Smith, I still do think long-term he is going to be a super utility kind of guy, a lot of value he can have in that role, plugging in at second or short or third or I think pretty much anywhere in the outfield once he gets some more reps at those positions. I'm a little surprised that he is the one that's being called up to get this kind of backup time because there's not a spot for him either. If there's not a spot for Ezequiel Duran, there's not a spot for Josh Smith, unless this is just we need to get him on the big league roster because we think there can be some small situations where we can get some wins squeezed out from having him on the roster and providing that value, which I still think would rather get him a little bit more development at AAA just a bit and some more reps in the outfield. But if the Rangers think that they're going to use him a lot to help them win ball games, then I think that will be a really good thing for them to do and the right move. But there are a few other ways that the Rangers can get some guys. There are some guys in the minor league system that are on the fringe. There are some external options. We're going to look at those. But first, this episode is brought to you by Blue Chew. Summer's winding down and the nights are getting longer, but the breeze isn't the only thing getting stiff. That's right, this episode is sponsored by Blue Chew. Guys, we all know that confidence can get you far in life. That's especially true in the bedroom, especially when it's time to step up to the plate. That's where Blue Chew comes in. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but in chewable tablets and at a fraction of the cost. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready for an opportunity that arises. The process is simple. Sign up at bluechew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. The best part is that it's all done online, so no doctor's visits, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. So if you could benefit from extra confidence when it's time to perform, chew it and do it. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's bluechew.com, promo code LOCKEDON to receive your first month free. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. We thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this podcast. Now, let's look at some of the external options the Rangers could use in left field. There's basically three main names. Unless the Rangers want to go absolutely bonkers, just go absolutely bonanza with spending and throw every bit of the bag at Aaron Judge, which I really don't think they're going to do. I really don't think they're going to do that. They might. It's a very, 2% chance that they might. But for the most part, there's only three options, I would say. Joey Gallo is one. Brandon Nimmo is the other. And Mitch Haniger, I think, is the third. Now, these guys will probably be looking for long-term contracts. Maybe Joey Gallo would look for a one-year pillow deal to kind of reestablish his value. Maybe he'll look for a longer-term deal. He's a two-time All-Star, two-time Gold Glover winner, both with Texas, and he has gotten a little bit back of his form back a little bit with the Dodgers, but not quite to the same level he was with in Texas. He's still hitting 203 on base of 320, slugging 469, 4 homers and 3 doubles in 25 games with the Dodgers. The walk rate isn't quite to the extreme levels of success that it was with the Rangers, but I do think this shift ban will be hugely beneficial for him, for his confidence, for his on base, for everyone who has told the guy who can hit 800,000-foot home runs that he should be bunting. I'm really looking forward to people stopping doing that. Just let these huge power hitters that happen to be lefties not have to bunt, but just swing for the fences and hit long, long bombs. Now, Mitch Haniger is a guy who is having a bit of a down year, has been injured a little bit for the Seattle Mariners. He's a one-time All-Star back in 2018. He was an All-Star. Last year he received some MVP votes. He had 39 home runs. He really helped them down the stretch. Had an 804 OPS, playing mostly right field or DH. This year he's played mostly right field or DH. I do think they could stick him in left field, and I think that would be just fine. This year he's only played in 38 games, has 7 home runs, an OPS of 717. Has been a bit of a down year, but his OPS plus is still 108, so he's still been above average, 8% better than the league average right fielder slash DH whenever he has done that. But the Mariners might let him walk. They've got some big contracts. They've got guys who they just signed, other guys that they're trying to extend. They literally just extended Julio Rodriguez for a crap ton of money. They just brought in a Cy Young winner for a crap ton of money, and they've got some other youngsters that they're going to want to extend. So this might be a guy that they have to let go. Eugenio Suarez has done a good job for the Seattle Mariners team. Their offense has been much better. Jesse Winker has provided some value there, but he hasn't been quite what they've wanted. I think it's possible they let him go. They do still need some offensive help, so it might be a situation where they really, really want to hold on to him. But I can't really read how they want to play this. I think there is a chance that the Mariners could let him go if the Rangers are able to money whip him, but I'm not entirely sure that's what they want to do. The last one is Brandon Nimmo, who is a guy who the Mets might also let go, and in their crazy pursuit, I'm assuming, of Aaron Judge. I think there's going to be a huge bidding war between those two New York teams, those two ridiculously rich teams, and that could leave Brandon Nimmo as the odd man out. This year he has done a very good job. For his career, he has been a fantastic on-base guy, just kind of the ideal left fielder. He's got a little bit of pop, not a whole lot, but just elite on-base skills for his career. In 586 games over 7 years, he's got a 382 on-base, a slugging percentage of 439. That is an 821 career OPS. The last 2 full seasons, he's had an on base over 400. And let's see, in 3 of the last 4 full seasons, he had an on base over 400. The only year that he didn't was in 2019, where he had an on base of 375. This guy has got elite on base skills. They've been down just a little bit this year. He has also been playing a lot of center field. That would be nice to have a guy who can also play some center field. He is a 3-WAR player, 3.4 Baseball Reference WAR player this year with 13 homers and a 351 on base. So the guy has provided a lot of value, and I think that he could be one who slips through the cracks. There's not a whole lot of external options on the market right now. But if you look to the future, if you look to 2024, guys who I think could be ready then, and maybe some of these guys could be ready late next year, but I really do think that 2024 is probably going to be about when these guys are coming up. We have Aaron Zavala, who has absolutely annihilated everything that he has seen at Double-A. It has been very encouraging to watch him absolutely crush it at Double-A. Just ridiculously great on base skills, ridiculously balanced at the plate, and showing that power that I was a little worried he didn't have, but he has been showing it. The former second-round pick in 23 games with Frisco has an OPS of 1048 with Frisco, 4 homers, 8 doubles, 18 walks to 19 strikeouts, and on base of 472 in 106 plate appearances at Double-A. That has been very encouraging. It's gone down a little bit from the insane 1,400 it was for the first 2 weeks of his time in Double-A. Another guy who completely dropped off of the top 30 MLB pipeline Rangers prospects. I don't see how, because he was, I believe, around 14 or 15, maybe even 12 at the midseason, but that's Trevor Hauver, and he has done a fairly good job in his brief time in Double A as well. Not quite the same insane level of success as Aaron Zavala, but he has got 14 games at Double A this year, 4 home runs, 2 doubles. The batting average is not great at 205, but the on base is insane at 368 and slugging 523. He's also got a pair of doubles, and he had a similar slash line early on in his time at low A and then kind of brought that back up. The batting average has been not great at either of those places, but the on base skills and the power have been showing a little bit more. I don't think that he is the most likely of these guys, but he's definitely a guy that needs to be considered. Justin Foscue is another guy along those lines who's shown some promise at times, but I don't know how well he's going to play in left field. I do think he is a left field slash DH guy, but he has shown a lot of offensive pop. 14 bombs, 30 doubles this year, an OPS of 854 in 95 games at Double A, 431 plate appearances, an on base of 369, slugging 485. I think that's definitely a guy that the Rangers need to consider or should consider trading because there's going to be a logjam at this left field position. There's been some log jams at other places that's kind of moved the logjam to left field slash DH, but the Rangers have a lot of candidates. I don't know that Foscue is the highest on that list, but I do like what I've seen from him. Another guy, Dustin Harris, who I think could be ready towards the end of 2023. We'll see what we get from him. We'll see what he's able to do in the Arizona Fall League, if that is where the Rangers end up sending him. He is done for the regular season, but he's put up some decent numbers, played in the Futures game, had an 817 OPS in the regular season, 346 on base, slugged 471. That was with 17 homers, 16 doubles, and 19 stolen bases while playing the outfield. The outfield's a bit of an adventure for him. He could definitely use some more reps out there, but he's got some real potential there. And Evan Carter, who has been annihilating the baseball, he's finally back and healthy and playing at high A. He's got an OPS of 871. Maybe 2024 is a bit aggressive with him, but I do think that he can make it there. 18 doubles, 10 triples, and 10 or 11 home runs to go with 25 stolen bases. The kid is putting up some impressive numbers, and he could see a little bit of time in Frisco. I think if they do make that postseason, they might give him a little bit of a reward there. But those are the guys who I think are going to compete for that left field spot. I do like the 2024 options a little bit better than most of those right now options, except for Ezequiel Duran. I think he's right up there with Zavala, Carter, and Dustin Harris as some of the best options for left field. Coming up, we're going to look at these new rule changes and what they mean could have some drastic impact on Corey Seager. But first, this episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your online pro and college football betting needs and sports info this season. Find all the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, and podcasts, including this year's opening week's games. BetOnline is also your continued source for sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. Finally, football is here. We had the first NFL game last night. We got the first weekend of NFL games. If you're a Cowboys fan, if you're anybody else fan, finally NFL has started. Got college football in full swing. Go check out all the action on BetOnline today on your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Now, today, officially, the league's competition committee, which is made up of 6 ownership level representatives, it's also made up of 4 players and 1 umpire, which seems a little stacked in the owner's favor, that they can just kind of do whatever they want unilaterally and overrule literally everybody else. But one of the things that they approved was the pitch clock of 15 seconds with the bases empty and 20 with runners on. That shouldn't be too much of a problem, except for those late 2010s Red Sox Yankees games that always seem to go 10 hours because every pitch would take like a full minute to finally do after like 3 throwovers, and then they'd finally get set up to actually throw it. Also, a defensive alignment must include 2 fielders on on each side of second base bag with both feet on the dirt, as well as rules limiting pickoff moves and expanding the size of bases. This is from Jeff Passan's article of ESPN. The vote was not unanimous. The players unanimously voted against the pitching clock and against the defensive shifts, which are very, very aggressive. But the Rangers have been hurt pretty badly by the shift in years past, obviously with Joey Gallo. But Corey Seager has also been pretty badly victimized by these. But I do think the Rangers can benefit a lot from these rule changes. I do think they're a bit aggressive, and I think there will be, after this year, after the first year of them implemented, I think there's going to be some drastic implications that were not thought of by the owners, were not really considered, that are going to show up in a huge, huge way that are going to have to be maybe even at mid-season, because I can tell already there's going to be a lot of different things that this impacts. I mean, think about this. You can't bring the infielders in. You can't bring them in on the grass for these bunt attempts. So the incredibly fast players that can bunt well, aka Bubba Thompson, I think he's going to benefit absolutely massively from this. Not to mention the bigger bases, which I don't know how I feel about that. I'm sure it's fine. If it makes it easier for runners to run through first base and not accidentally step on any first baseman's ankles or run into anybody, I think that's great. I think that's going to be very beneficial. It's also going to make stealing bases just the marginally easier, which it always comes down to those very tiny margins. You can lead off a little bit further, and you have a little bit less far to go when you're stealing bases if the bases are bigger, obviously. So that's going to shave off, point however many seconds, but that point however many seconds is going to add up and make a big difference for the Rangers, who are so aggressive on the base pass. If you look at the lower levels, some of these changes have been implemented, and you see some of these crazy stolen base numbers from guys who, necessarily aren't the fastest, but I think the Rangers are going to make a lot of their guys run, and they've got a fairly fast team in general and some smart base runners as well, and I think the Rangers could really take advantage of this rule. But in terms of the shift, let's look at some of the guys who are going to benefit the most. Corey Seager right now leads all of Major League Baseball with 90 outs on ground balls or line drives hit into the shift. Marcus Semien is tied for fifth with 61 of those outs on ground balls or line drives hit into the shift. Right now, let's do some quick math. You may be thinking, okay, well, how big of a difference is this really going to make? Like, I don't know, is Corey Seager going to start hitting like 600 or something? Is it going to be just insane, or is it really not going to make that big a difference? I really do think it's going to make a huge difference. I mean, we've talked a lot this season about Corey Seager and his expected numbers versus his actual numbers. Right now, he's having a career low batting average season at 245 at the moment. It has not been a banner year for him, and the expected numbers say he should be hitting a whole lot higher, and right now he is just not hitting that much higher. Yeah, right now 245 is by far his lowest batting average for a season. He did hit 267 back in 2018 when he missed several games, actually most of the season, 26 games that year. The most for a season where he played more than 100 games. The lowest batting average, say, for a season where he played more than 100 games was back in 2019 at 272. Every other year, 295. Okay, we had 295 in 2017, but every other year has been above 290. He had 308 in his rookie year, his rookie year in 2016. He hit 306 last year. He hit 307 in the shortened season in 2020. The guy had a great batting average. He's been able to do it with the shift, but with those 90 outs, let's start small. Let's say it's like a third of those balls as singles. That gives him 155 hits on the year. Let's look at his line right now. 125 hits on the year, hitting 245 on base, 321, slugging percentage of 455. That's a 775 OPS. It's not great. It's gone down significantly in the last couple of weeks, but for the most part, it's been pretty darn solid. Now let's look at, say, of those 90 outs in the shift, let's say a third of them are singles. No doubles, obviously no home runs, no triples, nothing like that. Just a third of them are singles. That gives him 155 hits on the season. Right now, they give him a slash line of 304, 364, 513. That's an OPS of 877, 102 points higher. That's just saying a third of those balls that are hit into the shift are hits. Let's be more aggressive. Let's say half of those hits are singles. Half of those 90 balls outs hitting the shift. That gives him 170 hits at this point in the year. That gives him a slash line of 333, 390, and 543. That is a 933 OPS, 158 points better. 150 points better. That's if half of those hits into the shift turn into singles. Now, let's be super aggressive. Let's be ultra aggressive. What if every single one of those balls hitting the shift, every single one of those outs is a single? That gives him 215 hits right now. Right now, with however many games left. That'd make him hitting 422 on base of 469, slugging 631, an OPS of 1100. 325 points better. That's an entire world of difference. That is, kind of disappointing season to MVP season. That is entirely different. And, I didn't do the math on Marcus Semien, but I imagine it would be a marked increase in those numbers as well. Not quite to the same extreme level. He's still 29 outs fewer into that shift, but I think it would still definitely improve him from his 715 OPS. By the way, he has jumped ahead of Martin Perez for the Rangers WAR leader at 4.5 Baseball Reference WAR. For those of you who are still concerned about him and his contract, he is absolutely living up to it and shining and thriving late in the season, which we absolutely love to see. We love to see Corey Seager get up to be a 4 WAR player, and maybe Nathaniel Lowe in the last couple weeks, if he just keeps on this insane hot streak. Maybe the Rangers could have 4 different players with a 4 or better Baseball Reference WAR. I'm not sure they'll get there. If they get 3, that would be a successful season and an improvement. But let's look at defensively. How much do the Rangers shift versus everybody else? Is this going to affect their defense a whole lot? I think it'll affect them a decent amount. Right now, they shift the 10th most of anybody in Major League Baseball. They're not super aggressive with it, but they're still up there. They shift in 37.5% of all plate appearances this season. Against right-handers, they shift 22.9% of the time, which is a little bit more than league average, 63.1% of the time against left-handed hitters, and that is also above league average. They've been fairly effective in that. They have been hit kind of hard when they shift versus right-handed hitters, and I'm not sure how much that says about that being a bad defensive alignment versus the Rangers pitching staff has just been kind of terrible this year. But I do think it'll also make a big difference in shortstop defense and the importance of that, and maybe the Rangers speeding up that conversation with moving Corey Seager off of shortstop, because even though his outs above average, those advanced defensive metrics seem to like him a little bit more. You can tell just by watching him, the range is not what you would like to see for an elite defensive shortstop. Obviously, the offense has provided a whole lot of value, but it'd be funny if the shift it would kind of offset the shift benefiting him so much offensively if it kind of moves him off his position defensively. That would just throw a lot of things into chaos. I think Marcus Semien would probably be the shortstop if it's not Corey Seager, as we've seen this season, because every time that Corey Seager is not the shortstop, it is being played by Marcus Semien. But those are just my initial thoughts on this shift. There are some other things that are changing that I'll get into probably next week, but I do think overall these changes, while they are aggressive, and I don't think that they'll hold in this form, the pitch clock will definitely hold, and I think that'll be a thing that everybody will agree is a great idea. But the defensive shifts, I think, could be taken advantage of in ways that weren't quite thought out as well as they should have been by the ownership. But I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm sure Joey Gallo is very excited about this, and whatever contract he's going to get are going to be much better. And good news for the Rangers, they've already got Corey Seager locked up for another 9 seasons, and same with Marcus Semien for another 6 seasons after this. So those guys who have been very badly offensively impacted by the shift, I think their numbers will explode next year. We'll see batting averages look more like they were traditionally, and all those people who forget that there are other metrics besides batting average will kind of chill out on saying that every player nowadays sucks. So could be a lot of fun, a lot of different implications, and I'm very much looking forward to Josh Jung's appearance tonight. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. Now, for your second listen, go check out Paul Francis Silva in the Locked On MLB podcast. He is bringing you all the news from around Major League Baseball. I'm sure he has got some thoughts and feelings and opinions on this shift. So go check it out wherever you get your podcast. That'll do it for today's show, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy Josh Jung, Major League Baseball.